Right, welcome back to OKTech. This is the middle of 3 videos on introduction to charting in Excel. The first one was part 8 in the series. So this is part 9, and then part 10 we'll finish it off, charting for now. So we've got this single bar column chart. If you haven't seen the previous one, just go back to it. And it shows the data set. If you click on the data bars, it shows you the data set. It's all the months of the year versus what you've spent. And you could change that backwards and forwards. If you clicked on it, right clicked, select data, and it was the spent column, you could change it to the earned column, as I just did in the previous video, the other way around. And you'll see that range C3 to C14. And you'll notice it's got the constant symbols in from the video on formulas and cumulative sums. So that range refers to everything that is in this column. And you'll notice actually there's a little bit confusing at the first. Jan exclamation mark. That's actually the name of the sheet. That's not the name of the month. January, that's the name of the entire spreadsheet. So it's down here. It's because I've called the spreadsheets January, February and March as well. I can change the name of the spreadsheet. I can change it to something else. So if I right click, rename, and call this spreadsheet sales, and then we go back, select data again, click on it, edit, and you'll now see the reference has changed to sales exclamation mark. So that first bit is the name of the spreadsheet, and then it's exclamation mark, and then it's the range of all the cells that are actually making up your data. So we can edit it. To edit it, you click on this blue button with the left mouse, and then you see that range. And the easiest way to do it is not typing. The easiest way is just to use the mouse, left click, drag it down, release. And in fact, actually, you need to, sometimes it's a little bit fiddly, you need to check before you release as to what it's actually put in. What is created there is like an amalgamation of 2 different ranges. So that's what the plus symbol means. We don't want that. So delete it all, start again, and that will give you the correct range for sales. So we can change the name to sales. We can type OK, and then it will go back to how it originally was. Okay. Various other formatting options. You can format the data series. I showed you these design options up the top. They're just automatic. If you want to customize it and do your own design options, then you can go onto these. You see it's automatic at the moment. That's because you've picked a custom design from the selection at the top. But if you want to change it to something like a gradient fill or a picture texture fill or a solid fill with a specific color of your choice and so on, you can do that. So we'll go back to automatic. If you wanted to change the border color, that's the border around the bar. So you can change those borders. If you wanted to increase the border thickness of all those bars, or decrease the border thickness. And you can add various effects. I don't think these effects are very nice usually, but you can put these kinds of effects on. Okay, so that's editing the presentation manually. There's also more you can do in terms of editing an axis. Let's say this figure was too big, so you shrink the figure. Oh yeah, there's one more thing to say. If you go around the edges of these charts, when you get to either the corners or the midpoint, so it's like on a snooker table, there's something in the middle of the squares and there's something at the corner. And when you get to those corners, if you grab them, and you can increase or decrease the size. So okay, it's fine at the minute. It's still showing you all those months. But now it's not showing them, and it looks pretty ugly. January, March, May. So the reason is basically the font was too big. There's no room for it anymore. So what you can do is click on it and you just decrease the font size a little bit, and then you can see it again. Another way to do it, if you've got maybe these were longer than month names, or they were in maybe January, February written out in full, then you could have clicked on the format axis and you could have clicked down to alignment. So you right click on the axis, format axis, and then go down to alignment. And when you get to this screen, you'll see text direction horizontal. You can choose to change the direction to either rotate 90 degrees. So now the words are sort of stacked from the right to the left, or you can rotate by 270 degrees. So now the words for the axis labels are stacked sort of left to right, or you can put it back to horizontal, and then you can maybe vary the angle to some specific angle, so minus 70 degrees, or minus 45 degrees, or plus 45 degrees. So quite often something like maybe some of these will look quite good at like minus 30 degrees if you've got quite long words. That will enable you to lay out your axis labels quite nicely. And then one other thing to notice is it's not only the entire chart area that you can change the size of, it's also just the chart itself. So if you click somewhere inside the chart, then you've got the same thing like the snooker table with the corners and the midpoints. And if you select the corners, then, and you can see Excel's produced this little indication of how large the thing's actually going to be. And basically all that just selects everything except for the chart title. So the chart title is in its own little world, and you can move that around separately, or if you wanted to put it inside. So there's all these different options, and you can decide how you want to lay it out. Obviously it looks a little better if you've got the chart title above, probably. If you're concerned about your printing and you don't want all this black and this grey, then just change it to a different kind of design which doesn't have that. So if you don't want to use up all that ink, if you want to get rid of the grid lines, you can just delete them. So you click on and press delete. Basically, if you click on anything and press delete, it goes away. So if you don't like that title, delete. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say on single column. These charts get more complicated. You can basically add more columns. So at the minute you've got just the sales data, but suppose you want side by side the sales and the cost data. So for that, instead of edit, you'll add another series, and this series is going to be called spend, which is the same as cost. And then we're going to put the series value in. You just select from the top to the bottom like that, and there you go, you've got a side by side column chart. You've got a side by side column chart, but there's something missing now. Basically that gives you, if you glance at this chart, it gives you no information about what those two bars are, and that would be much better to have that information. So what we're going to need is to go back to layout, and you're going to have to click on legend, and we want to show the legend. Now you can show it at the right, which is there, or you can show it at the top, or you can show it at the left, and so on. That's a terrible place to put it, but the best thing to do is just pick it up and move it to somewhere, and then you can just kind of neatly put your legend in wherever is suitable. Okay, so that's basically an introduction to side-by-side column charts, and obviously the more data types you have, the more columns and the more color variations and so on that you might wish to include. In the next video, I'm going to talk about things like line charts, negative numbers, and how to copy them over into other software.